Hello and welcome back to the UTF podcast with me, Elliott Cuff, my co-host Gavin, Barrett. We're back again to talk about sport. We missed last week.
We did miss last week.
We did miss last week. This is the 5th episode, I think, in our new iteration of the show. And it's the international break, so a lot of these stories are going to be relating to either the international break in football or other sports, because there's not an awful lot coming up in the club scene at the moment. England are the big story, bit of Wales as well, bit of Scotland, Formula 1, all the usual jazz. Pepsi, cheers, all best. Don't need to spend too much time dwelling on that now.
Ready to crack on?
Yeah.
Ready to crack on?
Let's go straight into it. We're starting with, we're starting on a bit of a downer note. We thought we'd get this one out of the way first and then move on to the more fun stories. Raheem Sterling, he is being shown goading the fans yesterday during England's win over Montenegro in their Euro 2020 qualifier. Unfortunately, it's 2019, and whereas you'd like to imagine that racism has at least moved forward and into being stamped out, we saw a couple of instances last night at the game, which was a real shame. It's worth pointing out Sterling wasn't specifically racially abused. According to his post-match interview, he never heard any abuse, but his teammate Danny Rose was on the receiving end of some horrible stuff.
Hudson-Odoi was apparently also racially abused.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
It was supposed to be the both of them. And then Sterling, obviously when he scored his goal, ended up making this celebration to make a point, I think.
Yeah, Sterling's done really well, I think, this season. Not just sort of on the field, but off the field, has been quite a leader in confronting issues. He already criticised the papers and the media early in the season for their racial biased reporting of news based on whether a footballer was white or black. And again, he tweeted something about this, and we'll have to tweet up in a minute. But he tweeted something basically saying, you have to address the haters and say,
there we go.
You have to address them and explain that it's not acceptable. Acceptable anymore.
It is.
Which, I mean, we two white guys on a panel, we don't have to be the ones to tell you racism is unacceptable, but it is worth reiterating and shining a light on how even in 2019 you have people like this that are just moronic, that keep hurling abuse at people just for the way they're born, and it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like Raheem Sterling is becoming a proper leader, not just on the field, but obviously off it now as well. I think people are starting to look up to him, especially younger black generation. So people like Hudson-Odoi, Jane Sancho, they can look up to him as a bit of an influence, really, as a figure they can look up to and obviously try and figure out how they can progress their career and stand up to racism and stuff like that. Whereas obviously Montenegro, I'm not sure if they've ever been known for being racist. Obviously, I know they're in that area, they can be, but in Montenegro themselves, it doesn't seem to be too bad. But obviously, there's got to be something done about this. A lot of people are claiming, obviously, Montenegro should be playing behind closed doors in the next home game and things like that. What do you think?
That up as well. Sterling said that.
Yeah. So, what do you think should be the punishment to racism like that?
I think it has to be. It has to be behind closed doors, because you need to punish the fans and show that it's not acceptable. It does punish the team in the sense that you don't have the fans backing you up, but that is punishment enough to the fans, knowing that they are now hindering their team by not being able to support them. To your point about Sterling, I agree. I think he's grown a lot as a man, not just as a footballer. He's really standing up, and he's one of the standout people in the Premier League, not just players. He really is becoming quite a good figurehead for youngsters to look up to. But yeah, they need to be punished. The fans. It's difficult because it's difficult to punish one without the other. But behind closed doors, definitely, because it's a joke. It's embarrassing. Or just don't play any games in Montenegro. Have England play both legs at home or whatever. Or find a neutral ground and play somewhere else. Make the fans suffer in some way, because it's unforgivable, isn't it? Really,
it's kind of disappointing, especially for England and their fans, because it kind of mars a good performance from the team. Obviously, they started off slowly. It was a poor first half.
It overshadows the result.
The second half, they performed well. Obviously, Sterling has been great this season, not just for Man City but for England too, and he proved that again yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see how Montenegro do get banned, but hopefully it doesn't overshadow completely the England performance and the win, because obviously they've started the European qualifying campaign quite well.
It's a bit of a shame for Raheem Sterling personally, because obviously going into the Montenegro game, he's coming off the back of scoring a hat-trick against Czech Republic. He played really well in this game as well, so in this international window, he's had such a good time that people should be lauding praise on him and saying how, we've got a genuine star. We always talk about how Harry Kane is so important to England and how he is sort of England's only real bona fide world-class player. Raheem Sterling's right up there now, and we should be talking about him in the same way, not talking about racism like we're doing now, which is a real shame. But we're going to move on to talk about the actual performance itself, because it was, like you said, there was a little bit of a problem at the beginning. It didn't go the way everyone thought it would. One goal down.
This man had a big game. Started off not great for him. Obviously, he was kind of at fault for the goal, not reacting quick enough for the Montenegro goal when they took a surprise early lead. So you would have thought, you kind of wonder how England would react, because obviously it's the first time in a while you have to come from behind and see.
What one was that? Was it inside 15 minutes? Yeah.
So you got to think what type of resilience do England have? And to be fair to him, Hudson-Odoi showed it didn't bother him one bit, as he was massively influential throughout the game, especially obviously getting Ross Barkley's goal and obviously creating another one as well. So for me, he had a massive game, and it was quite good to see, if I was an England fan, to see how all the players reacted to going behind in a tough environment like Montenegro.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was impressed with Callum Hudson-Odoi, because I think there's been an awful lot made in the media this week about how Hudson-Odoi has never started a Premier League game. All these other players have. Why is he in the squad over other players? Jack Grealish is one that's come up a lot, I've seen on social media. But I think it's worth pointing out that if he played for any other club, if he played for Everton, for example, he would have started a Premier League game by now. It's only because Chelsea aren't giving him the game time he deserves. Even Chelsea fans have been saying, why has he not played more often this season? Why has he not started more often? So it's not that he hasn't started because he's not ready. It's just he hasn't been chosen. He hasn't been given the chance that he deserves. And every time he's come on, he's impressed for Chelsea. So it was no surprise to me, really, to see that when he played for England, he looked good. He looked sharp, created chances, found openings. I mean, did Barkley scored one, didn't he?
Two. So 2 years ago, the one off Hudson-Odoi's cross.
That's what I was going to say. For that goal, the shot was going wayward, but he set that goal up nicely. He cut inside, ran past a couple of defenders. He's shown real class early on, and it's really good when you compare him with Jadon Sancho, who also has just come onto the scene and also looks equally as threatening. Considering both players weren't in the squad 12 months ago, it gives quite a lot of optimism going forward that we've got this young talent. But also, like you said, with the general performance, it was good to see the resilience, because it's disappointing to go down 1-0 down so early into the game. Michael Keane was unlucky; the ball deflected off him straight to the path of the winger. So, in typical, England teams have passed, Roy Hodgson teams have passed, England would have struggled in that game, and they might have won 2-1 near the end. But not only to get back into the game quickly, but also to accelerate past that and score goal after goal after goal and end up winning 5-1 is impressive, and it says an awful lot about what Gareth Southgate has been able to do with this team.
Obviously, someone we did mention who had a big game yesterday as well, scored 2 goals and was quite influential, was Ross Barkley. Obviously, someone you...
I didn't cheer his goals.
Why is that, Gav?
Yeah. Not as big as fan, I'll be honest. I can accept his goals for it in an England shirt are for a bigger cause, but I won't be jumping up on my chair anytime soon. But no, he did have a good game. I'll give him that. That's the only good thing I'll say about him. He did have a good game.
Something we wanted to talk about as well was England seem to have a lot of places up for grabs these days, a lot of fight for competition, obviously, which is great for the team and for the fans. There's lots of youngsters coming through, you've got some experienced players as well. But other than, I'd say, Raheem Sterling and Harry Kane, is there anyone else who would say guaranteed starters? Or do you think, now, if someone misses a game, they could be out of the team for a while?
We did speak about this a little bit yesterday. For me, I don't necessarily believe it should be the case, but I think for Gareth Southgate, Jordan Pickford is an automatic starter, because I think he's identified him as our long-term number one of the current and the future. You know, he's only 24, 25. And if he keeps developing, I mean, he's stagnated a little bit this season, but if he keeps developing the way Everton and England hope he does, he should comfortably be our number one. So, whereas his poor form this season and, you know, the threat of Tom Heaton and young performers like Angus Gunn, Nick Pope, Jack Butland obviously is in the Championship, but has earned a call-up, so he must be performing reasonably well. There's nothing that says specifically Pickford deserves to have his spot being an automatic place, but I think under Southgate, he's got that. Otherwise, I don't know.
So if you think about it, if you're playing a front three, there's always that one space left, obviously, other than Sterling and Kane. So you've got the youngsters coming through like Sancho, Hudson-Odoi fighting for that position, but then you've got Jesse Lingard, you've got Dele Alli, you've got all these different players there.
For me personally, if we're saying we've got a fully fit squad and everyone's to go, Marcus Rashford is for me.
That's me where I forgot about Marcus Rashford.
But I don't necessarily think he is at the moment for Southgate. I mean, like you said, we've got an awful lot of positive wide options we can alternate, we can change, but for me, for a competitive game, Marcus Rashford would start. It would be that front three: Sterling on the left, Marcus Rashford on the right.
Midfield is probably quite a big place for England to debate. Fans obviously would disagree with everything because you've got Eric Dyer, who mixed reviews really. Then you've got Declan Rice coming through, he's only 20 years of age, looking good for West Ham, played well, obviously he made his debut for England this week. And then you look at players like obviously Ross Barkley, who played well, Jordan Henderson come on and had a good game. Obviously Loftus-Cheek. There's so many options now for Southgate going forward.
Dele Alli.
Exactly, you can go on and name more that are coming through. We've got some of the youngsters who are still playing, like Sean Longstaff's playing regularly in the Premier League now.
We've also seen caps for the likes of Harry Winks and that you know they get their chance.
There's so many options now for Gareth Southgate, which as an England fan you'd be excited going forward, and I think that's something you'd be interested in seeing go progressing through the qualifying campaign, looking into next year's European Championship.
It does seem like a really good moment at the moment with the young talent we've got. I mean, you even go and look at the defensive options we've got. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who hasn't had a call-up yet, but you would imagine would in the future. On the left side, you've got Ben Chilwell, who's still coming through as an exciting player. And then at the back, you know, there are so many young options. England are really...
Gomez to come back as well.
Gomez will be massive when he comes back. He's missed a lot this season, which is a shame because he could have developed a lot. Not a shame in the Premier League hunt sort of debate, but yeah, you can imagine that England have such a good squad depth now of exciting, talented players that are going to come through. You've even seen people like Gary Lineker tweet yesterday about the likes of Clark from Leeds, you said?
Jack Clark, yeah.
Jack Clark from Leeds. And then people like Mason Greenwood, who we haven't seen an awful lot of in senior football, but I mean, if you're at Manchester United, you're already a talented player, and if you come across as one of the most highly regarded at Manchester United, you must be some player.
So obviously Mark's will put the table up here and obviously England's results. So what does it mean, the great start England obviously beat Czech Republic 5-0, beat Montenegro away 5-1. What does that mean for England going forward, obviously looking at the table and heading into next year's European Championships?
I think, to be honest, England are going to qualify. At the moment, it's a given. England will qualify every year. We're comfortable with that. What we need to look at is how confident they are when they play, the style of play, and how they're going to fare going forward. And I think there's a good chance, you know, after the World Cup performance, I mean, people will always go back to it was only this team or it was only that team. I mean, Panama held Brazil this week. It's not the same kind of standard as a World Cup game, but people will always put down England's performance. But it was good, it was confident, it was free-flowing football that really suited, and they all played for Gareth Southgate. And I think going forward, you know, we see 5 goals in each of these games. Defensiveness, our defence isn't as tight as it should be, but then we're missing players like John Stones. I think going forward, what we can take from these games is that these players play for Gareth Southgate. They play well for Southgate. He is a good leader. I was someone who wasn't overly keen on him being manager, and I think he has more than earned his spot. And it just makes me excited to see when the Euros do come around how well we can perform and whether we can go on and win it. Because yes, teams like France and Germany and Spain will always be considered more attractive prospects than England because of the vast squad depth they've got. But there's no reason why England can't give it a good go. And the way we play at the moment, it does fill me with confidence, and it does inspire me a little bit to think there's no reason why we can't.
So I feel with England as well, as one of the ones in the World Cup, I think the performances weren't exactly great in every game. Obviously, you've struggled past a couple of teams, but I think since the World Cup, I think England have been fantastic. Not just obviously in the last 2 games, but in the Nations League as well, beating obviously the likes of Spain and Croatia. And it is tough to say, but England have been I think have been better since the World Cup than they were in the World Cup. And I think that's because you're bringing in these type of youngsters like Jadon Sancho and Hudson-Odoi. I know this was their first week, but it just gives you...
Wasn't Sancho's first?
No, obviously he played last time, but you know, I mean, Hudson-Odoi and players like that. But you're kind of thinking, like, it's a bit of excitement. It's been a bit of excitement back to the England team that I don't think you've had in a few years, really. It's the golden generation, obviously, has been passed. Rooney was probably the last one of that to go now. It's just like, it feels like, it's like a brand new, fresh start that Southgate can just create his own path and play the way he wants to play and bring all these exciting youngsters to the fore and hopefully give the Euros next year a good chance.
And I think also with the players that we've got that are more on the senior side, they're all still in the prime of their career. You look at the likes of Kyle Walker or Kieran Trippier, whoever we're playing, they're getting towards the end of their career, or not end, but they're getting towards the latter stages, and they're still playing very, very well on a week-to-week basis. Danny Rose is still playing well. Jordan Henderson's still playing well. The young players are coming through, but we're not stuck with 33, 34-year-old ageing players to supplement that. We still have players that are playing in their peak and will, hopefully, as they get older and need to be phased out, the younger players will be perfectly equipped to just take their place.
Yeah, I completely agree. On to, we're speaking about youngsters and how they perform in. Obviously, Wales made since Giggs took over, we've given 12 debutants to youngsters, and the likes of James Lawrence, who's a bit older, but he's come from Anderlecht and he's been outstanding. And yeah, we've had obviously a great week of Trinidad and Tobago. People will say it was only Trinidad and Tobago, but it was only a friendly, but it was important that we got the clean sheet and the win, just so it gives a bit of confidence heading into that Slovakian game. Because obviously clean sheets bring on other clean sheets. Like Giggs was making it a point that it was important we got that clean sheet against Trinidad and Tobago to make sure we know we're strong enough to go forward and keep those type of performances going. But obviously, did you watch any of the Wales games this week? Did you see any?
No, I didn't know.
Oh, what a shame. It was a good performance.
I know. I cry myself to sleep at night. I missed those games.
Obviously, yeah, it was a brilliant start for us. It was much needed after. Obviously, we didn't play the first round, so obviously it's 5 teams in our group. Slovakia obviously won their game, Croatia won their game, so we were obviously playing catch up a little bit. If we lost on the weekend to Slovakia, it would have been a big. 6 points is quite a lot to come back from, even though it's early in the stages of the qualifying campaign. But yeah, I'm really excited going forward. I think we should definitely qualify. We're good enough. We've got youngsters who are coming from all sorts to perform for the team. David Brooks is obviously you've seen enough of David Brooks to see how good a player he is. It was weird because against Slovakia, the only bad player was Gareth Bale, which is ironic, really, isn't it? But generally, everyone else didn't put a foot wrong. Matt Smith, obviously very talented youngster from Man City, currently on loan at FC20, he was fantastic next side Joe Allen. Obviously, Dan James as well from Swansea, rapid, probably one of the quickest players I've seen. He's up there with Gareth Bale with speed, and honestly, I can't really argue with anything Ryan Giggs has done in the last year.
Feeling confident going forward then? Do you reckon you could win the whole thing?
Well, we got to the semi-final last time, and I think we're better team this time.
Shut up.
Why not?
Come on, man.
We got the semi-final last time. Got further than you.
Pure luck.
Got further than you.
Pure luck. You got further than us. Pure luck. If you'd played us, you'd have been knocked out.
But we did play you. Yeah. But we finished above you in the groups, didn't we?
But I mean, in the you know what I mean, in the knockout stage.
Better than Iceland, and you lost to Iceland.
Okay, let's not relive that one. Let's move on from that one.
But no, honestly,
we're a different team.
Honestly, Dan James, I was saying, he's got a bright future ahead of him. Obviously, I'm not sure if you've seen much of him playing for Swansea this year. You might have seen him against Man City the other week.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And obviously, he had a good game then. Do you think he's be in the Premier League next year? Because I think he's good enough.
Like you said, I haven't seen much of him this season, so I don't know. But you give him a very good words are there somewhere. Not coming out of my mouth. Recommendation. That's the one I was looking for. Yeah, you've recommended him quite highly, and you know he was destined to move to Leeds in the January transfer window. That fell apart on the last day because Swansea changed their mind, and if he did move to Leeds, then he would be at the Premier League next season. I mean, we imagine Leeds are definitely going to get promoted to the Premier League. So, if he is such an exciting young talent, then could be snapped up. The Championship is a good breeding ground now for young players. I mean, you look at Shea Adams of Birmingham as another one who's been linked with a lot of Premier League sides recently. We saw Chris Mepham got signed by Bournemouth in January. Again. There are an awful lot of talented players there, so if he is as talented as you say he is, then he could well be in the Premier League next season.
Obviously, Marcus watches the Championship week in, week out with Birmingham. He says he rates Dan James as well. He thinks he's a good player, rapid, as I said earlier. So it'd be interesting to see if he gets that chance in the Premier League, and it'll be anher Welsh player in the Premier. Obviously, we need as many as we can.
Yeah, it only helps Welsh football.
It was interesting the other day. I seen a Twitter account say, which I follow. He only supports Wales, doesn't support any club football, it's just Wales football.
That's interesting.
So he actually I wouldn't say necessarily want it, but he didn't mind Swansea getting relegated, and he hopes Cardiff do as well, because it brings more Welsh youngsters through. For example, he said Dan James, Conor Roberts.
I can see the logic there.
Dan James, Conor Roberts, and all these Welsh players alike would never be playing if Swansea didn't get relegated. I just want to see what your opinion on that is. Obviously, if you just support the national team, Swansea playing in the Championship has helped us realistically. Although they're not playing at the highest level, they wouldn't have played at all if they didn't get a chance.
I can see the logic there. Did Declan John come through Cardiff?
He did, yeah.
Because I'm fairly sure he come through Cardiff and they sold him before they got relegated.
They sold him to Rangers.
Rangers went to the Championship?
No, Declan John went to Rangers and then went from Rangers to Swansea.
Yeah, I didn't know he was at Swansea now.
Swansea now, yeah.
Maybe that example doesn't work then, but I understand the logic, yeah, of how the Premier League, there's a lot more pressure. You can't bring through young players. I mean, England struggle with it all the time. There's always talk about how in Spain and Germany you have to have a certain amount of players, Spanish and German, playing in your teams. And in England, we struggle with that. We struggle getting through young English players. Only the very best break through. So it does make sense that if you're in the Championship, with the pressure's off, you can afford to let your youngsters kind of give it a go, and if it doesn't work, you move on. If it does work, then you find a bona fide star. So, yeah, I can understand that logic. I find it very bizarre that someone would support the national team without... I mean, unless they're just not much of a football fan, it's just a passing interest. For instance, I support the England rugby team. I don't support an England...
No,
I don't support a team.
They're football and rugby fan. They support. I know he's from North Wales and he's massive, just Welsh fan. So he's not a club fan in football or rugby. He just supports Welsh.
But he's an actual football fan.
Yeah, he supports Welsh football team. He goes to every game, home and away. I think away, but he definitely goes to every home game. And then also the rugby as well. He goes to the home games and away games there as well. So he's a massive Welsh rugby.
It's really interesting that, because I've never heard anyone else have that. No, and I can't imagine what it would be like. But I mean, from that point of view, from that perspective, it makes sense, yeah. Because like you said, it's just a better breeding ground for young talent to be given a chance, which they wouldn't have got in the Premier League. Again,
obviously, as I said earlier, something to move on to is what Ryan Giggs has done. Obviously, he's had a lot of criticism over the last year since he took over Wales, obviously for his time playing for us, never turned up for friendlies. People criticising his performances. Obviously, we lost to Denmark twice, even though we did have that big win against Ireland. Do you think he was right in what he's done and bringing in these youngsters and using the Nations League and friendlies to try and bed in his squad and how he wants to play going forward? Because obviously it seems to be working, obviously, with the 2 wins this week, which has given us a great start to the qualifying campaign.
I think so. I think as long as you pick your games, you know which ones you need a stronger team for, you need to make sure you win, and then there are lesser games where you can experiment more. I think it's always positive to try and get as many young players forward as you can, because if you play with the same 11, the same couple of players coming off the bench, and you get to the Euros and then you've got a whole squad of untested players, you need to bring up 23, and the rest of 10 players you've got in that squad, you don't know if they're good enough, if they can do a job. And also, when you do alternate, you might find a star you didn't expect to before. You bring someone in who turns out to be fantastic, and you think, oh great, that completely changes my whole new perception of where my team can go. So I think England do the same thing, and I think it's great for England, even more so for Wales, because they have players from different divisions, players from the Championship who, from an ordinary person's perspective, they might say, oh well, he's obviously not good enough, he's in the Championship, but then you don't know how he's going to perform on the international stage. It's a completely different game. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's good to see he operates that way. I think it's really positive.
Because obviously, if you look at our squad over the last 2 games, especially against Slovakia, the average age in our starting lineup was 23. And only 4 players in the squad, in the starting 11 had over 10 caps. So you can see it's quite a young and inexperienced team, but they kind of handled the pressure quite well. Especially, obviously, we went ahead early. Dan James scored a good goal, and we had to obviously kind of see it out after that. And obviously, Giggs made a massive call in dropping Ashley Williams, obviously our captain. Obviously, he hasn't had a great season for Stoke, wasn't great last year for Everton either. So he made that call, and it worked out perfectly, because we had Chris Mepham, obviously signed for Bournemouth, was fantastic. And now James Lawrence, who's been a find from nowhere, really, signed from Anderlecht. Not signed from Anderlecht, sorry, called up from Anderlecht, and he's been absolutely fantastic.
Well, he's a really good example, because he's completely off the radar, playing outside of Britain. So for Ryan Giggs to know about him and then go, right, we're going to give him a go, is fantastic. And also long term going forward, as we said with England, if you've got an awful lot of young players, you want the transition to be as seamless as possible. There's no point using Ashley Williams and Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale until you physically cannot play them anymore, and then go, oh, we got no one else to take the place. It's good to progress naturally. So to be giving those players, like, I mean, for instance, Gareth Bale as a winger/forward, you give people like Dan James, Harry Wilson more game time. Naturally, when Gareth Bale comes to the end, it's going to be a seamless transition, you'd imagine.
Because again, we still have players to come back as well. The Tom Lawrence, Sam Vokes, Ethan Ampadu. Obviously, these players still come back. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, Marks will probably get for the table up for us. See how Wales in the table looks. We've got 3 points, same as everyone in our group now, except for Azerbaijan, I think. So it'd be interesting to go forward. Obviously, our next game's against Croatia, which would be massive. Obviously, they just lost to Hungary, so they'll be looking to try and win as well. So I'm really excited for the future, and hopefully we can qualify for the Euros and maybe see England again there.
As much as I don't want you to win anything, because I want to gloat over you, it is always nice to see as many home nations as possible get to the actual competition.
Imagine if it was a Wales-England final. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Never going to happen, but it would be.
I would hate every second of it, I think. Because just on the slim chance we do lose, I want the world to just open up and let me fall in.
The last thing I was going to say is, you said about individuals coming through, obviously, under the radar, and they can make a good performance. Will Vokes is one, plays for Rotherham in the Championship. No one really heard of him. Played against Trinidad and Tobago. Even though not the best opposition, he was fantastic, and I earned him a place to come off the bench against Slovakia, really, because of that performance. So someone who obviously used the international stage to his good effect, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy, I imagine, for a lot of people just to get lost in the pack. There are so many people in the Championship and the League Ones and League Twos and Premier Leagues to just blend in. So if you get an opportunity on the international stage, it's always good to see them take that with both hands, because it could benefit his club career as well as his international career.
On to the last team of international football.
No, this one I enjoyed.
Yeah, you're not a massive fan of Scotland, are you?
Naturally, is the rivalry.
Yeah, obviously, England and Scotland obviously a big rivalry. It's not so much between Wales and Scotland. So
I've got Scottish family. They don't like us. We don't like them. It's all good.
So yeah, not really a great week to be a Scottish fan of football, is it?
No,
really?
I mean, it says it all. There were 2 things that sum up this entire week for me. One was the tweet from the Scotland national football team, which read, "Kazakhstan go chasing a 4th." That tweet sums up that game. And the second one was a Twitter moment, a highlight of the week, which said, "Scottish fans are worried ahead of Scotland's game against San Marino."
Yeah.
Worried against San Marino. Those 2 things sum it up. I think we can move on. Let's go on next.
It generally has been that bad, though.
It's been horrendous. It's not the way Alex McLeish wanted this week to go.
3-0 against Kazakhstan, and then only beating San Marino 2-0. And I'll be honest with you, obviously I watched the game. San Marino could have scored. They could have actually...
Our producer Marcus was sending us some interesting voice messages at the time, saying that San Marino were going forward and having attempts on goal, which is, if you know anything about San Marino, is completely the opposite of what they usually do. You normally have all 11 men inside their own half.
They haven't scored a home goal since 2013. 6 years, and they went around the keeper.
Less than half of the players are professional footballers.
Honestly, it was mad. I don't know how Scotland are bad, because they have some good players. And yeah, I just don't understand what's happened to them this week. It's going to be an uphill battle.
Complete loss of confidence. It has to come down to, doesn't it? It has to come down to everything possible has gone wrong there.
It does, yeah.
And then against San Marino, I remember being frustrated a couple of years ago when England only beat them 5-0. Spain, you'd see Spain beat them 9-10-0, and you think, why can't England do that? To only win 2-0, that's just horrendous. Honestly, you need to be putting several more past them.
Again, the table doesn't look great for Scotland. I don't think it's going to be a tough battle.
The chances of qualifying are very slim.
It's going to be an uphill battle for them.
Yeah.
Unlike Wales and England, who look in a good position. Scotland, not so much.
No.
Obviously, look at the disappointment on their faces.
I can imagine it must be mortifying as well. But I do feel sorry for the players. Stuart Armstrong, it's just gutted.
It is them performing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you can only feel sorry for them so much before you go, well, why didn't you score then? Why didn't you play
it's going to be an uphill battle for them, but we'll move on anyway.
Yeah, we just completely ignored Ireland, but
in no case. Northern Ireland had a good start, by the way, so yeah. Northern Ireland had a good start, Republic of Ireland as well.
I'll talk about Northern Ireland next time.
Yeah.
Next time we do the international roundup. Just annual reminder, please. Annual reminder.
Annual.
Weekly reminder. Please support us. Drop us a subscribe, a like, a comment.
Trying to get 100. Hopefully we get that soon. We say this every week, but hopefully we will soon enough when Kafkas is acting here.
Oh, come on. on the show. That's just behind the scene dig, that is.
Well, obviously, it's probably the most, well, the newest story, obviously. I know the football was only last night.
Well, it's breaking to us. It won't be breaking when this goes out, but it's breaking to us.
Yeah, we had this obviously this morning before we started filming. Conor McGregor, the notorious one, seems to, well, it looks like he's going to be retiring from MMA. He's tweeted this morning, that's what he's planning on. Dana White's also said that he thinks he will, because... I haven't seen that, Dana White. Well, Dana White's played with them, obviously. It's fun, he said, Dana White said, if you're thinking of retiring, you should retire, because you've done enough. He's got enough money to retire, so he doesn't need to do it anymore.
Yeah, he's set.
It's one of those ways, I think. His coach as well, John Kavanagh, has said, like, he's questioned whether he wants to not coach him but be in his corner for any more fights, because he doesn't need to, because Kavanagh sees MMA and UFC as a prize fighting sport. So he says when you get money you get out, and obviously McGregor's now. Well,
yeah, you look at boxing, there's more of an art, and I'm not saying there isn't an art to MMA, but with boxing it's a lot safer, there's a lot more artistry to it, whereas MMA is a scrap, it's a fight, it's dangerous. I mean, all fighting, all combat sports are dangerous, but MMA is dangerous.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're as successful as he is, two-time champion, obviously absolutely minted. I mean, he's got other stuff we'll talk about in a minute away from fighting, but just fighting alone, he's minted.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Well, he's the highest paid athlete in UFC history to start with. He brings in the most revenue of any fighter in UFC history.
And then outside of MMA, fighting Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, he's one of the biggest sports stars he's probably the best self-promoter in the whole of sport, not just in MMA or UFC. He is probably the best self-promoter out there. His self-brand is unbelievable. He makes so much money just from being him.
Yeah, his arrogance, his sort of swagger, all of it just breaks in money, yeah.
The thing is, though, the question is he actually retired? Because for me, I don't think he is. I think, obviously, people say it was money. Obviously, MMA is only his third source of income now. He's got the Proper 12 whiskey, which obviously you can see here. He's obviously got that now, his own organisation. He's obviously got the McGregor promotions. He's also got his suit. He's also got, obviously, his endorsements. He makes so much money from other things. MMA is only his third or fourth source of income now, so he doesn't need MMA anymore. But he loves fighting so much, I just don't think he's going to retire. I think he'll come back for a fight. I'm not sure when, but he will. Maybe Nate Diaz.
I think he's been out of the game too long. People have been... he hasn't been criticised as such, but their fans have been longing for him to give an answer, because for a long time it's been unclear whether he was going to fight again. Fans have been saying, either tell us you're going to fight again or retire. Make a decision. Don't just be an MMA fighter who doesn't fight. Like, you have to do something. So for him to make the decision, maybe he has just gone, it's not really my thing anymore, I'm out. But then again, like you said, he's the kind of person who always rises to the occasion and wants to surprise people. I also think maybe his legal problems might make him go, do you know what? I've had enough of the limelight. I'm going to step back for a bit. Get on the production side of things. Obviously, he's in charge of this Proper 12 whiskey. He's got his own other brands going on. He can sit back on the production side and just go, right, I just rake in the money. I don't need to get quite as involved as I can. As he said on Twitter, kick back and, on the beach with a couple of drinks. So. Yeah. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if he came back, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he called it a day.
So if I had to push you for a decision right now, will he fight in the UFC again? What would you say? For me, I think he will. I think he will definitely fight in the UFC again. Probably against Nate Diaz for the trilogy.
No, I think he's done.
You think he's fight again?
I could see him box.
He'll box again?
I could see it. I can't see him... I think he's done everything he can possibly do in the octagon.
Yeah, he has, but
if he goes to fight Nate Diaz... but that's it. If he goes to fight Nate Diaz, it's just doing something he's already done again. And he always comes across McGregor as someone who wants to push boundaries, he wants to do new things. He's the opposite of Floyd Mayweather, as an example. Floyd Mayweather has always maintained his sole driving force is money. All he wants is money. He's known as Floyd Money Mayweather. Conor McGregor has always been the man who wants to push boundaries, who wants to be a legend. And I think he knows that if he goes and fights Nate Diaz again, he's just treading water. He's just doing the exact same thing he's done before. And I don't think he'll do that. But boxing is something that he hasn't done before. And I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that he goes, I'll have another crack. I won't take on the best of all time this time, but I'll go and have a crack. I think it's more likely he just retires full stop. But if he is going to come back, I don't see it being any option.
The third option is does he make the same entry as Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, and do you think he makes that move into WWE? Obviously, there's rumours of him being at WrestleMania this year. Not sure if it's fighting or just being there. Obviously, the Irish fighter, what's him? I can't remember his name. The Irish WWE fighter said...
Finn Balor?
Finn Balor said, obviously, see you at WrestleMania when he put his retirement tweet out. So I'm guessing he's going to be there. I'm not sure in what capacity, but he will be there. And there's always that link with UFC fighters, and especially the big ones, especially like Ronda Rousey made that switch, Brock Lesnar made that switch.
I can't see it personally. Brock Lesnar, you have to remember, was a wrestler first, and then went into the UFC and then come back. So that wasn't as much of a big move because it was just a return. Ronda Rousey obviously was the face of UFC, I think, just before Conor McGregor. And she was unstoppable, the baddest woman on the planet. Lost twice in quite humiliating fashion against Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes. And she kind of disappeared off the radar, and even though she was still a massive capture for WWE, she had slipped off the radar a little bit. She had gone down in the pecking order. Conor McGregor is still at the very top, and I can't see him. I think he's almost too big for WWE. I think if he got them, it would be amazing, but I just can't see it.
If he did, I think it's one of those things he can never lose. He'd have to win every match.
Well, that's the problem. It's the same they have with Ronda Rousey as well. It's difficult because people know that if it was an actual fight, if it was real, then they'd never lose. So it's difficult. And the same with Conor McGregor, yeah.
Sure, it will be interesting to see how that goes. Let us know in the poll below. Well, not in the poll below. Let us know in the comments.
If you're a WWE fan, would you like to see Conor McGregor in? Or are you fed up of all these athletes coming in? Well, actual athletes coming in.
So, let us know in the comments below whether you want to see McGregor in WWE or if you think he'll fight again in the UFC. We'll have a poll on Twitter, so check out our social medias. So make sure you vote in that and give us a retweet and a follow. And yeah, that's the Conor McGregor story done. I think he will fight again, though.
No, I can't see it.
On to Formula 1. Look how happy he looks.
Photos maybe not.
Look how happy he looks. Valtteri. But obviously, the Australian Grand Prix was last week. The new season's underway.
I just want to clarify to begin with, when we were discussing our points of discussion last night and what we were going to talk about on the show today, I had no idea the season had even started. I didn't know there was a race last week. I didn't know we'd started. I thought we were still building up. So, I mean, I don't know what happened there. I follow all these sports accounts on Twitter and I saw nothing. So I don't know how that's happened.
Yeah, obviously, there was a bit of a surprise, not a surprise with the pole position. Lewis Hamilton obviously nailed that again. Yeah. Then obviously he had a bit of problems with his car during the race, and obviously his teammate Valtteri Bottas managed to... You don't like Hamilton?
No, I don't like Hamilton, no.
You not?
No.
Not a fan?
No.
What's the reason for that?
I think he's arrogant.
Oh, okay.
I think he comes across as a bit of a...
Well, he finished second anyway behind his team at Bottas. So first round of the championship, Bottas is 8 points clear to Hamilton. Obviously, Max Verstappen came in third with obviously the Red Bull, with the Ferrari period, Vettel in fourth, and Charles Leclerc in fifth. What do you think going forward this year in Formula 1 is going to be the main storyline? Who's going to be the main competitors to Lewis Hamilton and his title?
Well, I mean, it's difficult for me to say too much because I don't know how, in qualifying and whatnot, how the cars have been driving, who's been doing well. But you're always going to look at people like Vettel and Bottas as good Raikkonen as good drivers that, if the cars are working, if the cars are good, can always compete. The storyline is always going to be, can Hamilton hold on? Because he's fast climbing up the list of most successful driver ever. An awful lot of people, not me, but an awful lot of people will see him as a British sporting legend. I mean, I see him as a British sporting legend, but an awful lot of people will see that and go, well, we want him to keep going. We want him to keep breaking records and doing it for Britain. So I think the storyline is always going to be, can Hamilton keep going? Can he keep going? But I don't know. I don't know how the cars are performing. I don't know how he's looked in the early season. I mean, I don't know how he looked in the race. Whether he was doing well before the car experienced issues or not, I don't know. I like Valtteri Bottas, so I'm glad he won. I think he seems like a nice player.
He seems like a nice bloke. That's one thing I will agree with. And I feel like Bottas would probably be his main competitor this year. I think he's ready to make that step up from just being the second driver.
I think he was very unfortunate to be a second driver last season because he was very good. It's clearly a good driver. So really, Mercedes did a great job of getting those two as the.
So I do believe that Bottas would be his main competitor because I feel like like you said, I don't think he wouldn't just be that second driver there now. I think he's going to actually push Hamilton and push him to the limit.
Similar to Nico Hulkenberg. Rosberg, sorry.
When Rosberg did to Hamilton when he won the title. So I think that's going to be a similar season this year. Obviously, then you move on and you've got the likes of Max Verstappen. Obviously, Red Bull have changed their driving line this year. Ricciardo's not there anymore. So obviously now they've got Verstappen's their number one driver.
So Ricciardo's still in Formula 1, is he?
Yeah, Ricciardo's still in Formula 1. Yeah, I think he finished the race last week, if I'm right. So yeah, obviously Verstappen's now Red Bull's number one driver, no doubt about it. So he's going to be probably one of the main competitors. He came third, actually overtaken both the Ferraris last week, which is massive.
Max Verstappen will always be the wild card because he's just a nutter, isn't he?
He's a great driver.
He's a great driver, but he's similar. He reminds me a lot of Ayrton Senna because people always said about Ayrton Senna that he would die in a car. Like before it actually happened, there was a lot of talk saying he is so sort of crazy as such, so like dedicated to winning the race, he will probably die in a car. And Verstappen is the same kind of person, as in, he has multiple times caused crashes on the track because he is so determined to earn every single place he can, which can be positive, can also be negative. But he's undoubtedly a great driver, and he's still, what was he, like 19, 20? Like, he's really young.
One of the best things is he's one of the most entertaining drivers on the grid. He's the type of characters and drivers you want in Formula 1 to make it a bit more of a spectacle than, obviously some people say it's been boring over the last few years, but he's the type of people you want there to bring that spectacle back and bring more fans back to F1. Obviously, like I said, we mentioned the Ferrari drivers.
Verstappen's always going to be exciting when he was a Formula 1 driver before he even had a driving licence.
Yeah.
So he's always going to be an exciting story.
I don't know how he managed that.
No, I don't know.
Obviously, everyone always says, and
he can drive a Formula 1 car 150 mile an hour down a road, but he can't drive a Clio 30 mile an hour down a street. Like,
it is mad.
It's mad.
But it is what it is. Obviously, there's been a big rivalry between Hamilton and Vettel over the years. People think it's probably going to be that rivalry again this year. What do you think? Do you think Vettel's going to be the one to challenge him more than Bottas or Verstappen? Because there's also a wild card for me that I mentioned after Vettel. He'll be interesting. If he's a very good young driver. This year, maybe not his year, but in the next couple of years, I think he'll make a massive.
The thing is, it keeps coming down to the car, because I think Lewis Hamilton is probably the best driver. If you put everyone in the same car, my parents always talk about this. If you were to take every driver and put them all in the exact same car, I think Lewis Hamilton would win the race still. I think he's the best driver, but I think Vettel would come close second. I think he's one of the better drivers, but the last couple of years, since his domination when he was with Red Bull, he suffered with poor cars that just couldn't manage it, didn't compete with the Mercedes. I think if he was in a Mercedes, it would be a very, very good contest between him and Hamilton. So for me personally, I think it depends. If he doesn't have a good enough car again, then he won't be in the race. It'll be him, it'll be Hamilton and Bottas.
I do think Vettel obviously is a good driver. He don't win 4 titles without being a good driver, but he's not as good as I think you make him sound to be, because I think
he's naturally.
He does struggle under pressure. He always seems to buckle under pressure when it's there most of the time. And
you say that, but 4 titles.
Yes, for me, but he's never really been put under that much pressure when he's won those titles. If you look at the way he won them, he's never really he's never really under pressure like Hamilton has been during his title reigns and title winning championships. So that's the big difference, I think. And there's a few drivers I think that could compete probably and maybe finish above Vettel, and if they were all in the same car as you said. I think Max Verstappen is one that could be up there. Probably, and then obviously you've got other drivers such as the person I'm going to go on to now, Charles Leclerc. He's going to be massive, I think. I think he is a wild card this season for the title race. Obviously, he came 5th on his debut for Ferrari, which is not bad because this is only his first race. But I think in the next couple of years, I think he's only 21, 22, so he's going to have a massive future. And I feel over the next couple of years, he'll make a big impact and will be challenging for them titles.
And it's going to be an exciting season, and hopefully, I think as a fan, all you want really is to see a competitive season. You don't want Lewis Hamilton to run away with it. You don't want anyone to run away with it. So hopefully, that's what we can get. We can get a lot of competition, and for it to be a really interesting title race.
Obviously, Bahrain next week. It'll be interesting to see how that race goes, and then see if Bottas can.
So where were they last week? Was it Australia?
Australian, yeah. England last week, and obviously Bahrain next. So that'll be interesting to see who can come on top in that one, and who's going to lead the drivers' rankings. Hopefully, Max will put here. On to the last story. Just a quick mention.
This isn't really newsworthy, but I mean,
we missed it last week. So
we didn't have to put it in, but he wasn't going to let us not put it in. So here we are. Go on. Have your 2 minutes to camera.
Yeah, no, what can I say? obviously, everyone really kind of doubted us all the way through the Six Nations, especially when we played England. But we had a poor start. I mean, we won both games. Poor as England, and then Ireland as well. We didn't just beat Ireland, we actually gave them an absolute pasting. It was 25-0 to the last play of the game, and they scored then. So it was disappointing to let them score, but can't complain with a Grand Slam, can you? Can't complain for a Grand Slam. Yeah, I'm buzzing, obviously, especially when England end up buckling a 31-0 lead to Ireland. Not to Ireland, Scotland, sorry. You always see Scotland as your biggest rivals, not Wales, but it's interesting you haven't beaten them 2 years in a row now either.
Yeah, that was bad. I don't know how we ever let that happen.
31-0 and you end up drawing the game. And that was because you scored the last minute try. You actually losing.
I don't know how that ever happened, to be honest. It's just amazing.
It just capitulated massively.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously I'm interested. Can't wait for the World Cup now. Wales for the World Cup?
No.
Why not?
Well, you admitted your performances early doors were pretty shocking. So you've got to maintain the levels you had against England for the entire tournament, and whether you can do that, I don't know. I don't know if you got it in your locker.
We've won 14 games in a row now, so we've kind of forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, you are looking good at the moment. You've got the form, you've got the confidence. It's not ideal, but you know.
We've forgotten how to lose, as Gavin says, and that'd be interesting. Obviously, we've got to play England twice as well before the World Cup in a couple of friendlies, warm-up games. So that'd be interesting to see how that goes.
It'd be interesting now to see what Eddie Jones does, because we were in pole position at one point, and then he just threw it away for a couple of capitulations and poor performances. So it'll be interesting now to see how he remedies this, whether he changes the personnel, his tactics, whatever. With the World Cup coming up, we want to see change.
Obviously, we look forward to the World Cup here at the UTF, and can't wait for Wales to win it again.
Yeah, great.
But no, yeah, that's it for this week's UTF podcast. As we said before, subscribe to our channel.
Subscribe.
That's all. Obviously, we wanted to hopefully enjoy our content we make. If you want us to speak about something or do something you like,
let us know. Social media is in the description below. You knew it was going to happen. I didn't mention it before. You knew it was going to happen, but I'm going to plug it. I've got my own podcast now as well, a solo podcast. Behave. I got a solo podcast now, and I would genuinely just subscribe here first. This is more important, but it's always been a long-term ambition of mine to get into podcasting, and I've got my own thing now. So if you can go on my Twitter account, I share links all over the place, SoundCloud, YouTube, any support on that is massive. Like I said, here first. This is important. Subscribe here, like here, follow us on Twitter. But if you have got an extra couple of seconds, go over to mine. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Done?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
Alright, that's it for this week's UTF podcast. Like we said, follow all our links in the description below. Make sure you like this video if you enjoyed. And yeah, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.
I'll subscribe to mine.